Hello everyone, I'm Intermediate O. I'm an Evangelion fan currently living in Tokyo, and next week I'll be going to see the final Evangelion film in the rebuild tetralogy 3.0 plus 1.0. But today's video is just something I was already making before they announced the final film was coming out next week, so this is just something I thought I'd put out now anyways. Once the movie does come out, maybe this will all be solved, but basically today's video is going to be about what does the logo of Wille mean, which they supposedly revealed a couple weeks ago when they did the television airing of 3.0. So basically, whenever they do these television airings of the movies again, the official Studio Khara and Evangelion Twitter accounts will share background information on the films, as well as just staff members who are allowed to divulge that information. So when they re-aired 3.0, they actually did share some background information about how they ended up with the current Wille logo. So here on the right is the image that they tweeted, and here on the left is the image of Wille that we know. So basically what they revealed is that the motif of the Wille logo that we currently know, and then all these other prototype logos as well, is both the character of a W and the character of kokoro, or heart in Japanese, or heart or soul. For the majority of this video, I may switch back and forth and say heart or soul, but kokoro in Japanese is basically the equivalent of heart and or soul. It basically is the same. Getting back on track to the logo part of this though, so of course probably everybody has seen the W motif in the logo. You can see that there is this strange W shape. But now what we can see is that the rest of the shape was meant to represent this character for kokoro, for heart, for soul. So that seems pretty cut and dry. It's a W and a heart. It's a W and a soul. W soul, Wille. It seems like that would be pretty simple. But we can dig a little bit deeper into this with some Japanese nuances. So, in Japanese, when you write W, it can basically be used as slang for two. So W in Japanese, of course in English it's pronounced W, but in Japanese it'll normally be pronounced dabudu. So dabudu is a homophone for double. So W is basically just called double by most Japanese people, which basically gives it the meaning of two or double. So for example, if you were to type in double cheeseburger in Japanese, as a W and then cheeseburger in katakana, it would autocorrect to a double cheeseburger. So W is just a shorthand way of saying two or double. So now when we look at the W heart motif, what it seems to actually be is double hearts, double souls. I'm going to try to say souls from now on actually. So double souls, it's this double souls motif, two souls. So this is confirmed by this memo on this note as well, where it's in Japanese, it says the base of the image is soul times 2, parentheses, plus W. So yeah, so that basically confirms that there was supposed to be this double souls, this double two souls imagery to it. On this little red memo that seems to be on a post-it note even, in Japanese it says ishi, and then arrow, kokoro ga daburu. So it's saying that ishi has two souls, or it has double souls. Okay? So this character, Ishi, if you look at the bottom for these two kanji characters that are used to make this kanji compound, both of them contain the character for souls inside of them at the very bottom of the characters. So we do have two souls right here, these two kokoros, inside these two kanji for this kanji compound, Ishi. And what does Ishi mean in English? Will. And what is will in German? Wille. So yeah, that's a lot of nuance now to the logo and to Wille itself even. The problem about drawing any conclusions from this though is that the journey between these points is not a straight line. It's a circle. Basically at any point you can connect it to another part. So we don't know where they started with their thought process. Did they think, oh, we want to have the imagery of two souls, so let's find a kanji compound that uses kokoro in it twice, and then they came up with Wille, and then Wille just coincidentally started with a W? Or did they want to use a word that started with a W, and then it just happened to coincidentally also have two kokoros in the Japanese translation of that word? I don't know where the journey started. And the note down here just at the bottom is just saying that this is supposed to be a resistance mark, so it should be something that they can spray or draw with paint or even with a stencil. But continuing on the assumption that there is more meaning to it representing two souls, that two souls happen to be a part of Wille's mission or foundation in some way. So the interesting thing is that I do believe there have been things in Evangelion that have been shown to have two souls. And most of the time, I feel like this is pretty concretely represented if those entities have two halos. So in Evangelion, the rebuild of Evangelion so far, there have been three things that have been shown to have two halos. So the first one is Evangelion Unit 1. The second one is Evangelion 13. And the final thing is actually the Wunder, also has two halos. So looking at Evangelion Unit 1, when it awakens in 2.0, you can very clearly see the first halo, but you actually can't spot the second halo until after it absorbs Rei. And it's actually right when it absorbs Rei is when it develops a second halo. And this halo appears over the top of Tokyo 3 itself. So while the Evangelion unit down in the Geo front has one halo, there's a second halo up above Tokyo 3. And in addition to this, during the final bits of its awakening, you can actually very clearly see two cores on the unit itself. And cores in the old Evangelion and the Rebuild series have always kind of been one-to-one with representing a soul of some sort, so it's pretty concretely showing that it has these two souls, or these two cores. For Unit 13, the two halos are much easier to spot. When it awakens, they're very clearly right there. And just the motif of twos or doubles in Evangelion 13 is all over the place as well. Of course, you have the double entry system with the two pilots. You have double eyes, you have two sets of eyes, and you have two sets of arms as well. In addition, you could even say this motif continues with it having to pull out the two lances. For the Wunder, we still don't know a ton about it, but when it does launch towards the beginning of 3.0, you can very clearly see that it's using two halos to launch itself. There is something else I want to discuss though when it comes to Unit 1 and Evangelion 13 though, where basically I'm not confident on what things are providing the halos to begin with though. Because in both cases, both Unit 1 and Evangelion 13 are kind of an amalgamation of more than just two souls at the times that we do see these halos form. So first we'll look at Unit 1, and in that case, when it awakens, it is kind of a combination of Rei, Yui, Shinji, the 10th Angel, and also Unit 0. So at the time of its awakening, kind of all five of these elements are in there in some form, so it's kind of hard to determine what were those two cores at the very end of the movie that we saw representing. Next, let's look at Evangelion 13. And in this case, we of course have the two pilots, Karu and Shinji. But we have the 12th angel, so in this case as well, we do also have an angel that's made its way in there somehow. And this angel was also fused with Unit 6. And Unit 6 was also fused with Lilith. So again, we kind of have this amalgamation of five parts, but no specificity on which parts are actually contributing to the halos or the two souls of the unit, if we're assuming that it does have two souls contained within somehow. And just to cover all my bases, I would also like to point out there is a possibility that Karu from 2.0 could also be contained within this amalgamation somehow. This is just throwing out the theory that maybe Unit 6 was piloted by a separate Karu who descended into Central Dogma that this Karu in 3.0 did not know about. Just covering my bases. Alright, and the last one is Wunder. Of course, you could just say it's because of whatever is going on with Unit 1. Unit 1 had two halos, so it's powering the Wunder, so why wouldn't it also have two halos? The only other thing we really know about is that the Wunder is connected to Mark 9 in some way, but I don't really see that involving this motif of two that we've come up with so far. But with the final movie, they have revealed kind of this anti-Wunder or this dark Wunder, like this counterpart to the Wunder. But again, this doesn't really contribute to this motif of two, besides the fact that there are two Wunders now at this point. But other than that, I can't think of a direct way to relate that to the dichotomy or motif of two that we have. Alright, and so just to recap on why I do think that this is an interesting detail that they did share and why this could be important though, is that because it's part of Wille's logo, it probably does have to do with their mission statement in some way, or their ultimate goal in some way. And in the original series, Wille didn't exist. But in the original series, there was this tension between the angels and the humans, and the idea of the perfect being being created as a fusion between them in some way, where the angels hold the fruit of life, and the Lilin hold the fruit of knowledge, and those two fruit being fused into one being in some way is kind of forbidden. So this motif could just be something about that as well, where maybe Gindo's goal or Wille's goal, or both of their goals, are related to a being that has obtained these two parts to become kind of an ascendant being, which is basically what happens when both Unit 1 and Evangelion 13, Awaken. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I'll be going to go see 3.0 plus 1.0 on the 8th. Right after that, I'll do a short spoiler-free review. And then after that, I'll do a longer spoiler-filled summary that kind of just breaks down the entire film, like scene by scene. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any theories about the nuances of the logo and how you think the thought process went, or about what you think the two souls aspect of the final film could possibly be, please go ahead and discuss that down below. I'd love to hear it. Alright, bye everybody.